What's up, curious people of YouTube? So I want to talk about UFOs or UAPs as people refer to them now. I was watching a video with Eric Weinstein on physics of UFOs. It was a very frustrating video to watch because in my mind there's no the amount of times human beings have said they've seen UFOs prior to World War II. There's a great deal. There's artwork predating World War II of UFOs, and if you just Google UFOs, Vatican, and I think Da Vinci drew some, or whoever, But after World War II, we had this incredible spike of masses of people seeing lots of UFOs. And there's been instances where entire states have seen UFOs, right? Like the Phoenix Lights, for example. Now, you have to understand that particle physics, we've known about particle physics for a long time, all right? All the way pre-World War II, because you have to have an understanding of particles in order to create nuclear weapons, which we did, which we dropped. And then we created the hydrogen bomb, right? Now, particle physics in today's language is quantum mechanics, right? So back in the day, they just called it something else. Just the same way like we had alchemy before, we have chemistry now. It's moved on, right? Now, UFOs go back all the way until World War II, which means the technology goes back to World War II. It also goes pre-World War II because you need like a few decades, like a couple, maybe 3 decades, like 2-3 decades of information, of theories, of testing and whatnot for you to have a final result, like a nuclear weapon, for example. Now, after dropping nuclear uranium weapon, we created the hydrogen bomb, right? Hydrogen is the first element on the periodic table of elements. Now, you guys don't think in after World War II, right? Like we created, let's say, there's so many elements, right? If we created the hydrogen bomb, why not like the helium bomb? Why not a gold bomb? Why not a carbon bomb, right? Why not like Oganessian bomb, which is element 118, the last element that they present to us on the periodic table of elements. Now, you have to also understand that every element has isotopes, meaning different variations of the same element. Most people are not aware that every element has various types of itself. Some are unstable, some are very stable, right? Now, we took nuclear technology, we created power plants, and we implemented in everything from Navy ships to submarines to weapons, to the only thing that they haven't fully demonstrated to us is that they place them on flying vehicles. And you best believe we put them on flying vehicles. As soon as we put them on boats and submarines, we put them on flying vehicles. Now, in the video of the UFO physics and stuff, the gentleman Weinstein is talking to, this dude says, well, yeah, like answers the question of, there's companies, let's say Lockheed Martin, for example, right? Who's a private company for the government that creates airplanes and all kinds of black projects, and that they may have new information in regards to physics and whatnot that they don't share with the public. And of course they don't, because it's all compartmentalized, and it's like, it was frustrating to watch because it's obvious, like I didn't think they had to say that aloud for people to actually think like, hold on a second. You know, these companies don't tell us everything. Yeah, bro, Apple doesn't fucking tell you about iPhone 15, but I guarantee you it has it somewhere in a vault, right? iPhone 15, 16, 17, they have technology for that shit. They're just waiting for the right time to present it. Now, in terms of, they even mentioned like, cow mutilations. So let me answer what cow mutilations are and what they mean. So theory goes, you know, craft lands and then they mutilate these cows, but they take certain parts, right? Reproductive organs, their milk sacs, their tongues, their stomachs, right? And their blood. Well, when there is high level of radiation, the first product they pull off the shelves is milk. And the reason why is milk absorbs radiation. All right? Like crazy. So it's the first thing we take off the shelves. So when we started dropping nuclear weapons for testing, right? Our great minds said, look, because of the way Earth's winds go, we need to have a place we test on the East Coast. So where did they decide to do the testing? They decided to do it on the West Coast. Groom Lake, Area 51, right? Like near Las Vegas. Why in the West Coast? They knew the fallout is going to be mid-US, possibly even East Coast. But that doesn't, it means that it's not going to go through the Atlantic and land in Europe and in Russia, where then they would know what the fuck we're doing. So in terms of having the edge on people or different countries, they decided to do it in Groom Lake, right? And they're like, fuck it, it's a desert, whatever, you know, people won't even know. So cows' tongues have a whole bunch of hair-like follicles to it, right? All they do is eat grass all day. When Chernobyl exploded, right, it threw a whole bunch of radioactive particles all over the place. Tiny little particles. Today, if you have like a Geiger counter over there, you can watch YouTube videos of people going and they'll pull out like little pieces of material the size of grains of sand that have like this crazy amount of radiation to them. All right, so these animals are eating them. Cows eat grass all fucking day long. So it's an animal that you would want to cut up and see how it's affected. How's its reproductive organs affected? How's its milk sac affected? Is there any particles stuck in the teeth, in the tongue, in the stomach, right? So that's why they do cow mutilations. It's about radiation. If we created radioactive craft, airplanes, whatever the fuck, right? Like, we're gonna want to know what's the radiation levels outside when it's in use, right? Because there's gonna be airflow. Is there any leaks? Is there any residual effects? Any, right? Like, they're even gonna test like crashing the damn thing to see what the fuck happens. And then they're gonna go and sample a whole bunch of things, right? Men in black dudes are gonna come through and fucking chop up a whole bunch of animals. Now, so another thing that kind of like really, it made me laugh is like government was funding research into demonic technology. That's what they said, demonic technology. Well, another word for demonic is a different life form you're afraid of. That's demonic. All right, that's what that means. It doesn't mean what the public thinks it means. It just means a different life form that you're afraid of, right? Which means, let's say aliens you might be afraid of. You can say, hey, they're fucking demonic. Now, when we blew up the hydrogen bomb, I want you guys to, like, I have a question. What do you guys think happened to time when the hydrogen bomb exploded or a nuclear bomb explodes, what do you think happens to the fabric of time? Do you think it bends? Do you think anything happens whatsoever? Do you think we have any interest in that? Right? Now, UFO technology is World War II technology. And the reason why they keep so much of it fucking hidden from us is because you can most likely build it in your garage if you had proper tools. In terms of flying machines, there's a handful of ways we can like create flying machines. One, we can like launch it, meaning like in terms of a cannon or like how we launch a bullet, right? With an explosion, we throw it into the air. That's one way. Another way is propellers, right? Like the Wright brothers and all that shit. So we had propeller-driven military aircraft in World War II. The Germans also created rocket technology, right? And then they also created jet engine technology. Well, the theory also goes they created UFO technology. Now, we have to look at all this from... So we have basic physics, like Newtonian physics. And then we have, like what Nikola Tesla said about the entire universe is energy, frequency, and vibration, or what's the word? Vibration, frequency, and energy. Einstein said time is relative. What does that actually mean? It means that any grouping of atoms, of which is an object, because that's what an object, like a cup. A cup is just a grouping of atoms together. Each grouping of those atoms have a different clock than another grouping of atoms. So two objects, no matter what they are, have different, they're running on a different clock. So all this shit is pretty old technology. Now, since I'm saying all this off the top of my head, on the bottom of the video in the details section, I'm going to put in bullet points all the technologies that I believe we've been really working on since World War II. Because what they've presented to us and what we know is old technology. I'm going to say some of them off the top of my head, and I know I'm not going to cover all of them, but I'm gonna try my best. So, since World War II, we put trillions of dollars into research and military and private military companies, right? To have the best technology, the newest, the breakthroughs, everything, right? So, nanotechnology is one, right? Biomechanical technology is another, meaning living machines, right? And they can be on the microscopic scale, or they can be on the micro or macro scale, right? Small and large scale, meaning the craft is actually alive. We've been working on genetic technology. We've spliced every type of DNA with every type of DNA we can think of. We've spliced trees into people in laboratories. Most definitely. I mean, you have to understand, like, after World War II, especially after Sputnik, right? The space race. We started building massive cities underneath massive cities. We created massive freeways underneath massive freeways. We created airports under airports. We had to go underground with a lot of this shit. So, we did a whole bunch of human testing, obviously. 99% of the craft out there, it's ours. Because they're all delta shaped, they're all triangle shaped. Northrop Grumman, their logo, right? Their logo is the Phoenix Lights spacecraft. They put that fucking spacecraft on the logo. Imagine that, right? We've been trying to work on time dilation, meaning stretching time out and compacting time. Okay? We've been working on multi-dimensional technology. We've been working on time machines, because that would be the greatest weapon of all time. If you can actually go back in time and forward in time, right? Because there's a difference between just stretching and compacting time, and there's a difference of you traveling from one point to another. We've been working on synthetic materials, like DuPont invented plastics and Kevlar and all this shit, right? Imagine what type of synthetic technology we've created. Now, in the Department of Alloys, we've created hyper alloys where you have like maybe 20, 30 different metals and from different isotopes and all kinds of just mixed together because they already have unique properties. We've been working on fusion for the longest time. And why is fusion so important? Most people think of it because we've been trying to create this electric source, right? Another source of electricity. No, we've been working on fusion technology because like our periodic table of elements goes all the way to uranium. That's the last known element that's natural on the planet. After that, everything else is man-made. So they've presented us all the way into element 118. Realistically, we might be on element 300, 400, 500 with different isotopes. You understand? We've been fusing all kinds of shit together, trying to find elemental-isotopic technologies and how to implement them, right? Because it's been like 100 years since World War II. What else have we worked on? We've worked on obviously chemical, obviously material sciences. Imagine the type of mathematics they're using that we don't even fucking use, right? Like new ways of describing things, new ways of and I'm not talking about like pre-World War II. I'm talking about after, right? 70s, 90s. We're in 2022. What the fuck do you think we've been doing since World War II? Trillions and trillions of dollars spent on finding new shit. What do you think we've been doing? We're colliding particles and all this shit, and this is just the stuff they tell us like through the mainstream. Imagine what they're doing underground that we have no fucking clue about. What other technology would we have been working on? Imagine creating absolute zero. Actually being able to manipulate shit so we get, like, as a weapon, absolute zero. And in terms of implementing it into aircrafts and whatnot. Right? Now, imagine you can drop a bomb that freezes an entire city. Where you drop the bomb, instead of blowing the entire thing up, you literally freeze the entire place. That way, all of the riches of that city that you dropped it on, it stays. Right? Because you don't want to invade a country and blow up a city. Like, no, you want to invade to take the riches, right? The resources. You want them. You don't want to lose that. So you best believe they've been trying to work on a way of, like, for example, they wanted to create nuclear weapons that don't leave a radioactive trace, right? So that we can go into the city and collect, whatever's valuable, for example, in the earth and the city itself. Now, the United States and the Soviet Union, now Russia, we have created tens of thousands of nuclear weapons, okay? Enough to blow up multiple planets. Not countries and not like continents. I'm talking about split entire planets in like the movies, like seeing a planet get blown up and shit, you know? So do you think that maybe we've been working together with the Soviets and certain other really powerful countries because there is a possibility of a threat out there? Because the mathematics tells us that we're not alone. We're not alone by any means in this universe. There might be something in a different dimension that's right here with us, and we can't even see them. Let's say they could see us, we can't see. Maybe they might not be able to see us either. But the mathematics clearly state that we are not alone. That means that the potential of a threat from outside the planet is very likely on a long enough timeline. That means we need to create a whole bunch of shit in case we need to fucking go to war with a species from a different planet. So yeah, we're gonna create massive amounts of nuclear weapons that could split planets and all kinds of shit, right? These are contingency plans in case shit hits the fan, right? We're not gonna sit there, you know, or thumbs up our asses while getting invaded from space. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to understand, like, of course we've thought about this. Our scientific minds, like, if I'm thinking about it, then military generals and whatnot, that you best believe they've thought about it, right? I mean, trillions of dollars we spend and we get what, like a new tank upgrade every 10 years? New shoelaces on steel toe boots and shit? Come on, bro. Like, you can't really buy into that, you know? So I found it real difficult to watch because, like, in my mind, it's like, it's not about, are UFOs real? Do they exist? Yes, they do. The question is, how much of it is ours? How much of it is Russia's? How much of it is non-human created? Right? So 99% of it is ours. That's why it, like, anytime, like, let's say there's 1,000 videos on YouTube of some people claiming there's UFOs. If 5% of that is real and the 95% is just people fucking around with the computers and the cameras and it's just fake bullshit, right? That 5% that's real, we don't have jets following them. You understand? Because if another craft came in our space, the first thing we do is launch our fucking planes after them, right? Like recently we have the video of the Tic Tac UFO and blah blah blah, and there's a whole bunch of videos of that, and the military is just curiously following it. They're not threatened. You have to understand, like, there's something there that they're not threatened. They already fucking know. Most likely they threw it out there and they're like, all right, let's see what you know, what happens. You know, they're just testing new technology like they always do. Now, with time dilation, a whole bunch of these things can happen in terms of, like, something can be moving 10 miles an hour, but since its clock is different, we might view it as moving faster than light, when in reality it's not moving faster than light. It's just running on a different clock, right? So yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that, man. It just, the whole UFO thing, man, there's this whole stigma, this whole tinfoil hat shit of people. It's like, no, man, we've been we've been creating shit for the longest time. Well, I was mentioning multiple ways of flight, right? So we have the jet engines, we have rockets, right? And then we have nuclear technology we can use to fly with. We can have, let's say, aerodynamic technology and certain mechanical technology that's, if you were to see it, you'd be like, oh, obviously that would work, right? You just haven't seen how it works. So to you, it's a disc-shaped craft, and you think, oh wow, how is this thing flying? You know, for all you know, it has a whole bunch of engines in there, a whole bunch of propellers, a whole bunch of all kinds of shit, you know? And it's just like a closed-off version of like a helicopter, for example. And it's just floating around, you know? And then you have, let's say, anti-gravity technology, and then you have time warping technology, right? So there's different ways of having UFOs. And UFOs, most people think of like just disc-shaped craft. I think we've been conditioned to think that way. But modern UFOs that we fly, especially the United States, they're all delta-shaped, triangle-shaped for the most part. That's our shit. Now, we obviously mess around with a whole bunch of different shapes, but if air friction and moving through the air doesn't become a problem anymore, like that's not something to take into consideration anymore, we can make objects into any shape, like flying in space. You know, if we're able to repel the air around it or whatever the fuck, so it's not affecting it, we can have shit craft in any damn shape. We can have a flying square, cube, better yet, flying cube. You know what I'm saying? So imagine creating an aircraft where it's biomechanical, meaning it's a living machine, where, let's say you shoot it and it heals itself because it's a living thing. You know, instead of building an aircraft, you literally grow an aircraft, right? Like, we've been working on all this types of shit. Like, it's not far-fetched, man. Like, our science, black project sciences, are so beyond what we see in movies and shit that now, so there is a time where, like, our great minds were, they watched stuff like Star Wars and Star Trek, and they got ideas from sci-fi, right? But the technology has gotten so crazy that sci-fi is taking information from like leaked sources or just from the real world. When they say reality is weirder than fucking fiction, it's really true, man. It's really weird, like reality just, there's so much shit going on, so many crazy shit that, like, every single day I'm sure that there's so much shit going on that they don't tell us, that they can't even tell us. It's ridiculous, man. Like, whatever goes through your mind, just know that it's gone through the minds of hundreds, if not thousands, if not millions of people's minds. You're not the only one thinking of this shit, you know? But government is smart enough where they're like, okay, let's put some money into this and see if this actually takes us somewhere. You know, don't tell me time travel's not possible. Let's say I invested a couple $1 billion. You think you get close to an answer? You know, at least tell me if it's possible or not. Don't tell me now. Tell me after I invested a whole bunch of money, you tried a whole bunch of experiments and shit, because I want to be able to fucking travel through time. Because what better than being pre-prepared for an attack, for example, right? It'd be the greatest weapon ever. You could go in the past, fucking, you know, kill certain people, stop certain things from happening, make sure certain things happen, right? All kinds of stuff, man. So time is a interesting one that I guarantee you that we've been working on for a while. And ever since, like, nuclear weapons and shit, time does weird stuff when you start messing with splitting atoms and combining atoms. Like, weird stuff can start taking place. I don't really know. I'm not a fucking physicist like that, but I read enough to know that weird shit happens that they can't explain, you know? Yeah, I think the only last thing I want to kind of maybe touch on is like the Philadelphia experiment, you know? The Philadelphia experiment and the Manhattan Project, like those two things, if you just look into them, there's a whole bunch of weirdness that goes into that. And all that is like World War II, pre-World War II. So imagine if, let's say, and like 10% of it is true, imagine where we are in 2022 in terms of experimentation and the crazy shit. We have the ability to completely control the weather, earthquakes, tornadoes, tsunamis. We've had that technology. You best believe we've been working on that shit for a long time. You know, to manipulate people's minds on a mass scale. Yeah, we've worked on all that shit, you know? PsyOps, definitely. We've been, I mean, that's just open source shit, you know? You can just fucking Google PsyOps and see all kinds of fucking crazy shit the CIA did with people, man. And so I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm gonna bullet point a whole bunch of stuff in the information under the video. But you guys have a nice day. You guys think creatively and don't be naive. You know, that doesn't mean dive head first into believing every fucking thing you read. But like they say, the best lies have a grain of truth in them. And yeah. Just don't be naive, you know? Just ask the questions. Most important question. Why? How? You know, why will get you across so many fucking, like, oh, that's why. Yeah, just ask the question why. It'll just keep asking like the little kid. Why? It'll take you pretty damn far, you know? But you guys have a nice day, man. You guys can comment, say I'm crazy, fucking put in your experiences, your thoughts, whatever it is. I'd love to hear from you guys. So you guys have a nice day. Stay safe, I guess. Peace.